The message came at 11:47 p.m., the night before my wedding. I remember the exact time because I had just finished folding my dress and placing it carefully on the chair. My phone lit up, and for a second I smiled. I thought it was him, my dad. I thought he was finally calling to say he was proud of me. Instead, I opened the message and felt something inside me break in a way I had never felt before. Don't contact me again. You are no longer my daughter. If you go through with this wedding, you are dead to me. That was it. No explanation, no call. No, I love you, just a sentence that erased me. I sat there on the edge of my bed staring at the screen, reading it again and again like maybe the words would change if I looked long enough. But they didn't. My hands started shaking. I tried to call him. Once, twice, 10 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. I sent a message back. Dad, please. What did I do? No reply. I called my mom, but she didn't pick up either. Later, I found out she had already chosen his side. That night was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life. Instead, I sat on the floor in my wedding dress, crying so quietly that even I could barely hear myself. Because deep down, I already knew he wasn't going to come. My dad and I used to be close. At least I thought we were. Growing up, I was his little girl. He would take me to school, wait outside during parent meetings, and bring me my favorite snacks without me asking. He used to tell everyone, "She's my pride." I believed him. I trusted him. But things started to change when I got older, especially when I met Daniel. Daniel wasn't what my dad had imagined for me. He wasn't from a rich family. He didn't have a big house or a fancy job. He was simple, kind, and honest. He treated me with respect. He listened. He stayed. But to my dad, that wasn't enough. "He can't give you the life I want for you," my dad said once, his voice cold in a way I had never heard before. "I don't need a life you want," I told him quietly. "I want a life that makes me happy." That was the first time he looked at me like I was a stranger. After that, everything became a fight. Every visit turned into an argument. Every phone call ended in silence. And when Daniel proposed to me, I knew telling my dad would not be easy. But I still hoped. I still believed that deep down, he loved me enough to accept my choice. I was wrong. When I told him about the engagement, he didn't speak for a long time. He just stared at me, his jaw tight, his eyes hard. Then he said something I will never forget. "If you marry him, don't bother coming back." I laughed at first. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And slowly, the man I had trusted my whole life became someone I didn't recognize. Still, I invited him to the wedding. Of course I did. He was my father. I sent him the invitation myself. I even wrote a small note inside. "I still want you there. I still need you." He never replied. And then, the night before my wedding, he sent that message, the one that ended everything. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy chest. For a moment I forgot. For a moment I thought everything was normal. Then I saw my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. Nothing. He meant it. He really meant it. I sat there in silence, trying to decide what to do. Should I cancel the wedding? Should I wait? Should I go to his house and beg him to come? But then Daniel walked in. He looked at me, and he knew something was wrong immediately. "What happened?" he asked softly. I didn't answer. I just handed him my phone. He read the message. His face changed, but not in anger. In sadness, for me. He sat next to me and took my hand. "We don't have to do this today," he said gently. "We can wait." I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "I've already lost enough." He squeezed my hand. And for the first time since that message, I felt something steady, something real. "I'm here," he said. And he was. The wedding was small, quiet, simple. There was an empty chair in the front row. No one sat there. No one needed to say why. I saw it every time I looked up. A reminder, a space where my father should have been, but he wasn't. My mom didn't come either. No one from my family did. It was just me, Daniel, and a few close friends. And even though I smiled, even though I said my vows, a part of me felt like something had been taken away, something that could never be replaced. After the wedding, I tried one last time. I sent my dad a message. "I got married today. I wish you were here." No reply. Days passed. Weeks. Months. Nothing. It was like I had never existed, like I had been erased from his life completely. And slowly, painfully, I started to accept it. I stopped calling. I stopped hoping. I stopped waiting. Because some silences are answers, and his silence was the loudest answer I had ever heard. 2 years passed. 2 quiet, steady, healing years. I built a life with Daniel. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had a small apartment, simple routines, late-night talks, shared laughter, and slowly I started to feel whole again. Not the same, but stronger. Because when someone breaks you that deeply, you either stay broken forever, or you rebuild yourself in a way they can never touch again. I chose to rebuild. I thought that chapter of my life was over. I thought my father had made his choice, and I had made mine. Until one afternoon, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me, something I couldn't explain, made me answer. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 2 years. I need to talk to you. My heart stopped. It was him, my dad. And just like that, everything I had buried came rushing back. For a few seconds I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight, my chest heavy. I had imagined this moment so many times over the past 2 years. I had replayed it in my head, what I would say, how I would react, whether I would cry or stay calm. But now that it was real, I felt nothing, just a strange, quiet emptiness. Hello? He said again, his voice slightly impatient this time, like he wasn't used to being ignored. I swallowed. I can hear you. There was another pause. Then he cleared his throat. I need to meet you. Not I miss you. Not how are you. Not even I'm sorry. Just, I need. I closed my eyes for a moment. 2 years. 2 years of silence. And this is how he came back into my life. What for? I asked, my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. It's important, he said quickly. Not something to discuss on the phone. I almost laughed. He didn't even realize how ridiculous that sounded. You didn't think anything was important 2 years ago? I said quietly. There was silence again. A longer one this time. I could hear his breathing. I know, he said finally. And we'll talk about that. But right now, I really need to see you. The words felt heavy. Not because they meant anything emotional, but because they felt empty, like he was reading from a script. I looked around my apartment. Daniel was at work. The house was quiet. A part of me wanted to hang up, to protect the life I had built, to protect myself. But another part, a smaller, weaker part, still wanted answers. Fine, I said. Where? We met at a small cafe across town. Neutral ground. Not his house, not mine. I got there early. I didn't know why. Maybe I wanted to prepare myself, or maybe I was just nervous. I sat by the window, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had already gone cold. And then I saw him, walking in, looking older, slower. For a moment, my heart did something strange. It softened, just a little, because no matter what he had done, he was still my dad. But then he saw me, and his expression didn't change. No smile, no warmth. Just that same serious look I remembered from the last time I saw him. He walked over and sat down across from me. Hi, he said. Hi, now that was it. 2 years of silence, reduced to one awkward greeting. He looked at me for a moment, like he was studying my face. You look different, he said. I am, I replied. He nodded, like that answer didn't surprise him. A waiter came by, but he waved them off. I won't stay long, he said. Of course. He never stayed long when it came to me. So, I said, leaning back slightly, what's so important? He hesitated. For the first time since he sat down, he looked uncomfortable. His fingers tapped lightly on the table. I'm dealing with some legal matters, he started. I didn't react. I just watched him. There's a property, he continued. A piece of land that's still under your name. I blinked. My name? Yes, he said quickly. It was registered years ago. For tax reasons. You probably don't even remember. I didn't. I had no idea what he was talking about. I need you to sign some documents, he said, pulling out a folder from his bag. It will transfer ownership back to me. It's just a formality. I stared at the folder, then back at him, and suddenly, everything became very clear. This wasn't about me. This wasn't about fixing anything. This wasn't even about the past. He didn't call because he missed me. He didn't reach out because he regretted what he said. He called because he needed something. My signature. That's all. I let out a slow breath. You disowned me, I said softly. Remember? He shifted in his seat. That was a difficult time. A difficult time. That's what he called it. Not cruelty. Not abandonment. Just a difficult time. You told me I was dead to you, I continued.
I was upset, he said quickly. I didn't mean it like that.
I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I saw him clearly. Not as my father, not as the man I used to admire, but as someone who only came back when it was convenient.
When did you stop meaning it?
I asked. He didn't answer, because there was no answer. He leaned forward slightly. Look, we can talk about everything later. Right now, I just need you to sign these papers. It's urgent. Urgent. Everything with him was urgent when it benefited him. But when I needed him, when I was crying on my wedding day, there was no urgency then. I slowly pushed the folder back toward him. I'm not signing anything today. His expression changed. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. It's not a big deal, he said. It's just paperwork. It is a big deal, I replied calmly. You disappeared from my life for 2 years, and now you walk back in asking for something like nothing happened. I said we'll talk about it, he insisted. No, I said, shaking my head. You said you need something. That's different. His jaw tightened. You're being emotional, he said. I almost smiled. That word, emotional. The same word he used every time. I tried to express myself growing up, as if my feelings were always the problem, not his actions. I'm being reasonable, I said quietly. For the first time in my life. He leaned back, clearly frustrated now. I don't have time for this, he muttered. And there it was again. No time for me, only time for what he wanted. I picked up my bag. Then maybe you should have thought about that 2 years ago. I stood up. He looked surprised, like he didn't expect me to walk away. Wait, he said quickly. I paused, not because I wanted to, but because some part of me still hoped, still waited, for something different, something real. But when I turned back, all he said was, just think about it. That was it. No apology, no explanation, no regret, just think about it. I nodded slowly. I will, I said, and then I walked out. That night I told Daniel everything. He listened quietly, like he always did. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. When I finished, he asked one simple question. What do you want to do? I stared at the floor. For so long, my decisions had been influenced by my father, his expectations, his approval, his anger. But now, for the first time, it was just me. And the truth was, I didn't want to give him anything. Not after what he did. Not after how easily he erased me. But I also knew something else. Something deeper. This wasn't just about the papers. This was about closure. About finally facing everything I had been avoiding. And maybe, just maybe, this was my chance to take back something he had taken from me. My voice, my power. I looked at Daniel. I think I'll meet him again. He nodded. Okay. But this time, I added quietly, it's going to be different. And I meant it. Because 2 years ago, I was the girl who begged for her father to stay. But now, I was someone he needed, and that changed everything. I didn't call him back right away. I waited 3 days. Not because I was busy, but because for the first time in my life, I wanted him to wait. I wanted him to feel even a small part of the silence he had forced on me. On the 4th day, I finally sent a message. I'll meet you again, tomorrow, same place. He replied within minutes. Good. Bring your ID. We'll finish this quickly. Quickly, of course. I stared at that message for a long time. Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement of the past. Just instructions. I locked my phone and set it aside. This time I wasn't walking in blind. The next day I arrived at the cafe exactly on time. Not early, not late. I wanted everything to feel controlled, balanced. He was already there, sitting at the same table, same posture, same serious expression. But something felt different. Maybe it was me. I sat down across from him without saying anything. He nodded. Good. Let's not waste time, he said, immediately pulling out the folder again. No small talk. No how have you been. Nothing. Just business. I didn't touch the papers. Instead, I looked at him calmly. I read about property transfers, I said. That caught his attention. His eyes flickered slightly. It's standard, he replied. Nothing complicated. I also spoke to a lawyer, I added. That was a lie, but he didn't know that. And for the first time, he hesitated. It's just paperwork, he repeated, but his voice had changed. It wasn't as confident anymore. I leaned forward slightly. Then you won't mind explaining everything to me first. He shifted in his seat. There's nothing to explain. Then it shouldn't take long, I said. Silence. He looked at me, really looked this time, like he was trying to figure out who I had become, because I wasn't the same girl anymore. I wasn't the one who would stay quiet just to keep the peace. I wasn't the one who would ignore her own feelings just to avoid his anger. I don't like this tone, he said finally. I almost laughed. I learned it from you. That shut him up. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he sighed, like he was the one being patient. Fine, he said. The land was put in your name years ago to avoid certain taxes. It was temporary. Now I need it back under my name to sell it. Why not keep it in my name and sell it that way? I asked. It's complicated, he said quickly. Explain it. His jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. There it was again. That same old line. The one that used to make me feel small, confused, unimportant. But not anymore. Try me, I said calmly. He looked annoyed now. Look, this is unnecessary. Just sign the papers. No. The word came out before I could overthink it. Clear, firm, final. He blinked. What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm not signing anything until I understand exactly what's going on. His patience snapped. I don't have time for this, he said sharply. I held his gaze. You had 2 years. Silence, heavy, uncomfortable, real. For the first time since we met again, he didn't have control of the conversation, and he knew it. This isn't about the past, he said, his voice lower now. This is about business. It became about the past the moment you called me, I replied. He ran a hand over his face. Frustrated, tired, but not sorry. Not once did he say the word sorry. Fine, he muttered. What do you want? I didn't answer immediately, because that question, it wasn't simple. What did I want? An apology? Respect? Acknowledgement? Closure? Maybe all of it. Maybe none of it. I want the truth, I said finally. You have it. No, I shook my head. Not about the land. About us. He looked away. For a brief second, just a second, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt. But it disappeared just as quickly. You made your choice, he said coldly. You married someone I didn't approve of. And that gave you the right to erase me? I asked. I didn't erase you, he snapped. You told me I was dead to you. You forced my hand. The words hit harder than I expected. Forced his hand. Like I had done something wrong. Like choosing my own life was a betrayal. I forced you. To abandon your daughter? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. The truth was too simple. Too clear. And too ugly. I spent my wedding day waiting for you, I continued. My voice steady but soft. I looked at the door every 5 minutes. I thought maybe you'd walk in. Maybe you'd change your mind. He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't, I said. But I still hoped. I paused, took a breath. I messaged you after. I told you I got married. I told you I wished you were there. Silence. You didn't reply. His eyes dropped to the table. For the first time, he looked ashamed. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't even close. I stopped calling after that, I said. Not because I stopped caring, but because I realized you already made your decision. I leaned back slightly, and now you're here. Not because you miss me, not because you regret anything, but because you need my signature. He didn't deny it. He couldn't, because it was true, and we both knew it. I raised you, he said suddenly, his voice defensive now. I gave you everything. Yes, I nodded. You did. He looked surprised, like he expected me to argue. I'm grateful for that, I continued. I always will be. For a moment the tension softened. Just a little, but then I spoke again. But that doesn't give you the right to treat me like I don't exist when I don't follow your rules. And just like that, the wall came back up. Stronger than before. He sighed heavily. This is going nowhere. No, I said quietly. It's going exactly where it should have gone 2 years ago. Another silence. This one felt different. Not empty, not awkward, but necessary. Like something important was finally being said. So what now? He asked, his voice tired. I looked at the folder on the table. Then back at him. And for the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was calm. Clear, certain. Now, I said slowly, we do this my way. He frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said, if you want my signature, you're going to have to earn it. He stared at me, confused, suspicious. And how exactly do I do that? He asked. I held his gaze. No fear, no hesitation, just truth, by finally treating me like your daughter again. His expression hardened. That's emotional blackmail. I shook my head. No, I said softly. This is something you should have done a long time ago. He didn't respond, because deep down, he knew I was right. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one asking for something. He was, and I wasn't going to make it easy. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe he didn't, because the girl who used to sit quietly and accept everything was gone, and in her place was someone who had learned how to stand still without breaking. This is ridiculous, he said finally, his voice tight. I don't have time to play these games. I didn't react, because I knew something he didn't. He did have time. He just didn't like how it felt when he wasn't the one in control. You had time to cut me off, I said calmly. You had time to ignore me for 2 years, so don't tell me you don't have time now. His jaw clenched. This is business, he repeated. Don't mix emotions into it. I leaned slightly forward. You already did that the moment you made love conditional. That hit him. I could see it in the way his eyes shifted, in the way his fingers tightened around the edge of the table, but he didn't admit it. He never did. So what exactly do you want? He asked again, this time slower, like he was choosing his words carefully. I took a breath. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to say it clearly. I want an apology. He blinked, like the word itself surprised him. For what? He asked. I almost smiled at that. For everything, I said quietly. For the message. For not coming to my wedding. For ignoring me. For acting like I didn't exist. He leaned back, crossing his arms. That's in the past. No, I shook my head. It's not. Not for me. He looked away, clearly uncomfortable. I said things I didn't mean, he muttered. That's not an apology. He sighed, frustrated. What do you want me to say? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, I saw it. Not regret, not pain, but inconvenience. To him, this was just something he had to get through to get what he wanted. And that realization, it didn't hurt anymore. It just made things clearer. I want you to mean it, I said. Silence. He tapped his fingers on the table again. Faster this time, like he was losing patience. I'm sorry, he said suddenly. The words came out flat, quick, empty, like he was reading them off a script. I didn't respond. I just looked at him and waited, because I knew that wasn't enough. After a few seconds, he frowned. What? He asked. You didn't mean that, I said calmly. His expression hardened. I said it, didn't I? Yes, I nodded. But you didn't feel it. He let out a short, annoyed breath. This is exactly why I didn't want to get into this, he said. It's pointless. It's not pointless to me. He shook his head. I don't understand why you're making this so difficult. I almost laughed. Difficult, that word again. Like asking for basic respect was too much. Like wanting to be treated like his daughter was an inconvenience. I'm not making it difficult, I said softly. I'm making it honest. He didn't reply. Because honesty was something he had always avoided, especially when it came to emotions. I leaned back in my chair, giving him space. Let me ask you something, I said. He didn't look at me. What? If you didn't need my signature, would you have called me? That question changed everything. He froze, just for a second, but it was enough. Because in that second, he told me the truth without saying a word. No, I said quietly, answering for him. He finally looked at me, his expression unreadable. That's not fair, he said. It is fair, I replied. It's honest. He opened his mouth to argue, then stopped, because he had nothing to say, and for the first time in this entire situation, he was the one without control, the one without answers, the one who had to face something real. I thought about you, he said suddenly. The words were unexpected, and for a brief moment, they caught me off guard. When? I asked. Sometimes, he said. On holidays, birthdays. I held his gaze. Did you ever try to reach out? He didn't answer. Because the answer was no. I didn't know if you'd respond, he said after a pause. I almost smiled at that. That didn't stop you this time. His lips pressed into a thin line. This is different. Yes, I said. This time you need something. The truth sat between us, heavy, unavoidable. I didn't know how to fix it, he admitted quietly. That was new. Not an apology, but closer to honesty. Did you try? I asked. Silence. Again. That same answer. No. I nodded slowly. Exactly. He rubbed his forehead, clearly frustrated. I'm not good at this, he said. I know. At least that part was true. I did what I thought was right, he added. Disowning me? I asked. I was protecting you, he insisted. From what? He hesitated, then said, from making a mistake. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. You didn't protect me, I said quietly. You abandoned me. The words landed hard. He didn't argue this time, because deep down, he knew it was true. And I survived, I continued. Without you. He looked at me, really looked, like he was seeing that truth for the first time. You seem fine, he said. I am, I replied. But not because of you. That hurt him. I could see it. But it wasn't my job to protect him from that anymore. Not after everything. I built a life, I said. A real one. With people who stayed, who didn't walk away when things didn't go their way. His expression shifted again. Something softer this time. Maybe regret. Maybe realization. Or maybe just the understanding that he had lost. Something he couldn't easily get back. I didn't think you'd cut me off completely, he said quietly. I stared at him. You cut me off first. Another silence. But this one felt final. Like the truth had settled in completely, and there was no way around it anymore. He looked down at the folder, then back at me. So what happens now? He asked. His voice was different this time. Less demanding. Less certain. I took a slow breath. Because this was the moment everything came down to. The moment where I decided what kind of person I wanted to be. Not for him, but for myself. I'm not signing anything today, I said. He nodded slowly, like he expected that. But, I added, I'm not saying no either. That caught his attention. What does that mean? It means, I said, if you really want my help, then this doesn't end here. He frowned slightly. You want more meetings? I want consistency, I replied, effort. Not just one conversation because you need something. He was quiet, thinking, calculating. But this time, it wasn't about money or property. It was about something he wasn't used to dealing with, a relationship. I don't know if I can do that, he admitted. I nodded. Then maybe you don't need my signature that badly. That was the turning point, the moment he had to decide, not between me and the papers, but between control and connection. And for the first time, he didn't answer right away. He just sat there, looking at me, like he was finally starting to understand what he had lost, and what it might cost to get even a part of it back. We didn't decide anything that day. He packed the folder slowly, like each paper felt heavier than before. I picked up my bag. For a moment, we just stood there. Two people who used to be everything to each other, now standing like strangers who didn't know what to say. I'll think about it, he said finally. I nodded. So will I. And then we walked in opposite directions. The next few days were quiet. He didn't call. He didn't text, and I didn't either. But this time the silence felt different. It wasn't painful. It wasn't confusing. It felt balanced. Like for the first time we were both sitting in the same place. Not me chasing. Not him disappearing. Just space. Daniel noticed it too. You're calmer, he said one evening as we sat on the couch. I think I am, I replied. Do you still want to help him? He asked. I thought about it. Not just the papers, but everything. The past, the hurt, the distance. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I know one thing. What? I'm not doing it for him. He nodded. Then who are you doing it for? I looked down at my hands. For me. A week later, my phone rang again. This time his name showed up. I stared at it for a few seconds before answering. Hello? Can we meet again? He asked. His voice was different, softer, less demanding. Yes, I said. We met at the same cafe. Same table, But something had changed. He didn't pull out the folder right away. He didn't rush. He just sat there for a moment, looking at me. "I thought about what you said," he began. I didn't interrupt. "I don't know how to fix everything," he continued. "But I don't want things to stay like this." That was new. Not perfect, but real. I nodded slightly. "Okay." He took a breath. "I was wrong," he said. The words were slow, careful, but they felt different this time. Not forced, not rushed, just honest. "I shouldn't have said what I said," he continued, "and I shouldn't have ignored you." I watched him closely, because this mattered. Every word, every pause. I didn't know how to deal with it, he admitted. "You made a choice I didn't agree with, and instead of trying to understand, I pushed you away." My chest tightened slightly, not from pain, but from hearing something I had waited so long to hear. "I'm sorry," he said again. This time, it felt real. Not perfect, not emotional, but sincere, and for him, that was a lot. I didn't respond immediately, because forgiveness, it's not something that comes quickly after that kind of hurt. "I hear you," I said finally. He nodded. Like he understood that wasn't the same as forgiveness. "I don't expect everything to go back to normal," he added. "It won't," I said honestly. "I know." Silence. But not an uncomfortable one. Just quiet. "I'd like to try," he said after a moment. "To what?" I asked. "To have some kind of relationship again." I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in a long time, I saw effort. Not control. Not expectation. Just effort. "It won't be the same," I said. "I know. It'll take time." "I know." I nodded slowly. "Okay." That one word felt bigger than anything I had said so far. Because it wasn't just about him. It was about me choosing to open a door I had closed. Not completely, but just enough. We started small. Short meetings. Simple conversations. No pressure. No expectations. Sometimes we talked about normal things. Work, weather, daily life. Other times, we talked about the past. Slowly. Carefully. Piece by piece. And for the first time, he listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't dismiss my feelings. He just listened, and that alone started to heal something inside me. Weeks turned into months, and things changed. Not perfectly, not magically, but steadily. He started calling just to check in. He remembered small details. He even asked about Daniel. That was a big step. The first time he met him again, it was awkward, but respectful, and that mattered. One afternoon, after almost 3 months of this, he brought the folder again. But this time he didn't push it toward me. He just placed it on the table. "I still need your help," he said. I nodded. "I know." But he added, "If you're not comfortable, I'll figure something else out." That surprised me, because for the first time, he was giving me a choice. A real one. No pressure. No urgency. Just respect. I looked at the folder, then at him, and I realized something. This wasn't about the papers anymore. It hadn't been for a while. This was about something much deeper. Something that had been broken and was slowly being rebuilt. "I'll read everything first," I said. He nodded. Of course. I took the folder, not because he asked, but because I chose to. That night, I went through every document carefully. This time I didn't rush. I didn't assume. I understood, and everything he said was true. It was just a transfer. Nothing hidden. Nothing complicated. He hadn't lied. But the difference now was, he had finally earned the right for me to believe him. The next day I called him. "I'll sign it," I said. There was a pause on the other end. Then a quiet "thank you." Not rushed. Not relieved. Just genuine. We met one last time for the papers. I signed everything calmly. No anger, no hesitation. Because this time, I wasn't doing it out of fear, or pressure, or guilt. I was doing it from a place of peace. When I finished, I handed him the pen. He looked at the papers, then at me. "I don't expect you to trust me completely," he said. "I don't," I replied. He nodded. "But I'm glad you gave me a chance." I thought about that. About everything. The message. The wedding. The silence. The pain. And then the conversations. The effort. The change. "I didn't do it for you," I said softly. "I know," he replied. And for once, that was enough. As I stood up to leave, he said something that stopped me. I'm proud of you." The words were simple, quiet, but they carried something real this time. Not control, not expectation, just pride. I turned back, and for a moment, I saw the man I used to know. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. "Thank you," I said. And this time, I meant it too. Some relationships don't go back to what they were. Some wounds don't disappear completely. But sometimes, they change. They become something new, something quieter, stronger in a different way. And that's okay, because not every story needs a perfect ending. Some just need a true one. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you believe in second chances, in healing, and in finding your voice, subscribe to YH Night Stories for more real emotional journeys like this.